McGuinness, BBC News, Berlin.
So, Mein Kampf remains a hugely controversial subject in Germany. We're joined now from Berlin by Sabine Beppler-Spahl, who's an economist, board member of the liberal think tank, the Freilich Institute, and from Jerusalem by Ilan Greenfield, co-owner of the Geffen publishing house, which specializes in works about Judaism and its history. I'm going to start with Sabine, come to you first, if I may. Do you welcome the fact that Mein Kampf once again is on the bookshelves of bookshops in Germany today?
Yes, I do welcome it, because for me it's an issue of free speech and I'm opposed to censorship. Germany has a long and sad tradition of censorship and I believe it's time to overcome that. I also think that the political problems which we do have in Germany at the moment, like the rise of a new far right, will not be solved through censorship or an authoritarian handling of this book, but only through an open and liberal debate.
But the argument against complete free speech is that there are some forms of speech which are incitement, which are hate-filled, which encourage violent acts and which are therefore to be criminalized. Does Mein Kampf not, after all you know about the impact of Hitler, come into that category?
Yes, it is. It is a terribly vile book, but we can't be selective. It's a matter of principle. If we are in favor of free speech and against censorship, we can't be selective about it. But I also think that censoring it actually fosters a certain type of cynicism in Germany, which we have been seeing. People, particularly the young generation, is observing what is happening very, very closely. And they're taking our word they're taking our word as saying that we are a liberal and democratic society, and yet we are being selective and not as liberal and as open as we should be if we say we are censoring certain works such as Mein Kampf, and people are then saying, well, you're only open and liberal when it suits you and when it serves your own purpose.
All right, well, there's the case for publication. I'm going to cross to Jerusalem now, to you, Ilan Greenfield. You are a publisher. You, I'm sure, say that you are committed to freedom of speech. So do you welcome the fact that Mein Kampf is now available again in Germany?
No, I condemn it from the outset. I think that it's a terrible thing that the academics are doing under the umbrella of academics and free speech. As Sabine mentioned slightly in what she said, we must have boundaries. She does not believe in boundaries. She believes that freedom of speech and being liberal means that anything and everything is right. And I condemn that, and I do not agree with that. In order for us to have freedom of speech, we must have boundaries. We cannot incite against a people. Can you imagine that we at Geffen Publishing would publish a book telling people why and how they should murder all Muslims in this world? Can you imagine what uproar, what would happen? The world would turn upside down. But when it comes to Jews, these liberals have no limits. They have no limits. They have hatred. There is nothing to study about Mein Kampf that will help any person get this world to become a better world. So I think while freedom of speech is important, we must have these boundaries.
But is it not better, Mr. Greenfield, to be open about the poison that Hitler's words represented, rather than sweep it under the carpet, have people try to access it on the internet illicitly in Germany, or turn it into some sort of underground cult? Isn't it better? You know, you Israelis, you do say, you have this phrase, never again, telling the world to remember always the importance of the Holocaust and what to take from it and to learn. Isn't part of that learning process to be very clear about what Hitler wrote and to address it head on?
Okay, I'll try and answer, and I'll be very careful with my answer. I think what you're saying has quite a bit of truth to it. We must never forget, and we must teach the Holocaust time and again. As a son of a survivor who was taken by the Germans from Czechoslovakia to Theresienstadt, to Auschwitz, to Bergen-Belsen, I think that I'm one who has to understand that as well. But we have to teach the Holocaust. We don't have to teach, and we don't have to put out Hitler's book. Can you imagine a surrealistic picture of every bookstore in Germany saying, our new bestseller, Mein Kampf by Hitler, Hail Hitler? I think it's disgusting. I think it's terrible. There's no reason not to teach the Holocaust. There's no reason not to teach the atrocities of the Germans and of the other European peoples. It's not only the Germans, but the book and what Hitler has taught had such success that over 6 million Jews were murdered, and many homosexuals, and many gypsies. So if we're talking about liberals, what do they have to say about all the homosexuals that could not stay alive?
Well, you know what, Mr. Greenfield, you speak with great passion. I'm going to put your words back to Sabina in Berlin. Sabina, you've just heard Mr. Greenfield's case against this publication. You made the case for. Respond to what he said, but in particular, he said, you know, can you imagine a new generation of Germans reading the words and saying Heil Hitler, at least in their minds, in modern-day Germany? And you do have a problem right now with the rise of a new form of far-right extremism in your country. Isn't this precisely the wrong time to be putting Mein Kampf back on the shelves?
I think it would be disingenuous not to do it, because we would be avoiding the political debate, because we think that by banning a book and by exercising censorship, we can tackle the problem. No, we have to confront it head on. We do have a problem. We have a problem with growing anti-Semitism, but we need to address the cause of the problem. It's not historically motivated. It's not nostalgic in that sense. It's, for example, motivated by rants against Israel. As an example, people saying that Israel is the main problem in the Middle East, which I think is complete nonsense, and we need to discuss and address that. I think fascism is not a contagious disease, and I think a book is not a bug. And I think we're mystifying, mythologizing this book, and we have been mythologizing it for much too long. In fact, I think some of these problems are due to the fact that our children, our new generation, has learned too little about history and has had too little access to this particularly vile book.
Well, it is an important, a fascinating debate, and I thank you both, Sabina Beppler-Spahl in Berlin and Ilan Greenfield in Jerusalem, for joining me on GMT. Thank you both very much.